Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes, and here are the three big stories for today. So the first, actually, there's four big stories today. I want to do five, but I'm going to reserve one for tomorrow. Okay, nearly half of the 50 North Korean ballistic missiles Russia launched on Ukraine this year have exploded in midair or gone off course. Ukraine has inspected the debris of 21 of the nearly 50 missiles. The percentage of North Korean weapons that failed proved to be high. About half of these missiles went off their program trajectories, exploded in air. In such case, the debris was not recovered. Okay, so this is bad for Russia, but it's not really that bad for Russia because Russia wants to sow chaos. They want these missiles over. If it goes off target and explodes in air, goes off target and hits a different building than the building that they were after, they don't really mind so much. And so it's bad for them, but not that bad. So the headline kind of makes it look better for Ukraine than it actually is. Okay, big story number two. ASEAN must calm South China Sea waters or risk Asia's Ukraine. So this trading bloc is generally neutral. The new chair of this will be from Malaysia. He assumes the chairmanship of ASEAN. Anwar has pledged to revitalize Asian-led forums such as the East Asia Summit. A pivotal strategy in the preservation of Asian centrality is hewing to neutrality, refraining from taking sides and fostering collaboration. Good. I hope they can all get along and nothing actually breaks out. Now, at the same time, we have friends and enemies. China could become a real problem. And why am I talking about China? Because if that becomes a problem and the U.S. has to take its eyes off there, it's bad for Ukraine. Recent reports suggested Japan's potential participation in the alliance between Australia, Britain, and the U.S., raising speculation over an Asian NATO aimed at containing China. Japan's militarization efforts have sparked consternation among many in the Asia-Pacific. The brutality of Imperial Japanese Army during World War II still casts a shadow. It's really odd to see Britain and France aligned with Germany against Russia, or the US and Japan and Australia aligned against China when, like, if you remember the alliances in World War II, it's really reshuffled the decks. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. may be an exception. At the Washington summit, Marcos declared the trilateral agreement is extremely important. He has also cautioned that any loss of Filipino lives due to a foreign power could activate mutual defense treaty with the U.S. And Philippines and the U.S. have been on very good terms for many years. Better terms in the 20th century, arguably, than in the 21st. In addition to the backing of the U.S. and Japan, Marcos has found support in India, South Korea, and possibly even Australia and New Zealand, seemingly forming an alliance framed as a defense of the international rules-based order. You've heard that kind of term before, right? If Russia can break that rules-based order in Ukraine, why can't China break it in Asia? And then we have a whole different problem set on our hands. Big story number three. GOP senators warn the speaker to stand firm on Greene's Ukraine demand. So Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying no more aid for Ukraine. I don't know why this is such a bee under her bonnet, but it really is. And she was saying it yesterday. She was putting up that poster I showed you of her and Vladimir Putin as a fake picture, but she was making a big thing about it. Okay. Senate Republicans are urging Speaker Mike Johnson not to make any promises to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, about future military aid for Ukraine. Warning, it would be a grave mistake for the speaker to box himself in. It really would. You want to have as much maneuverability as you can. Senators expect the Biden administration to request another round of Ukraine aid at the end of the year, and they want Johnson to have the flexibility to move it through the House. Greene asked Johnson during a Monday meeting to commit to not supporting any more foreign assistance to Ukraine. Again, people ask me, well, why do you keep showing Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because she is working actively against Ukraine. I can't not cover it. If I don't cover her, I'm somehow delinquent because she could be a real threat against Ukraine. Okay, but given that House Democrats have pledged to quash Greene's motion to vacate the Speaker's chair, and they have done that, GOP senators see little reason for Johnson to rule out another aid package, which could embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin. Okay, so that's the Senate talking to the House member saying, don't do that. The Senate's all in. there's enough Democrats and plenty of Republicans to support Ukraine aid in the Senate. That side's okay. It's the House that's a little awkward, and a slight majority of Republicans voted against it. Almost all Democrats voted for it, and the slight minority of Republicans voted for it. So there is, but it all hinges on whether Speaker Mike Johnson is willing to bring it to the floor. So they want him to not commit to what Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to get him to commit to. I just think at this point, you can't tie his hands. He's the Speaker of the House. Senate Republican Whip John Thune of South Dakota told reporters on Tuesday. Now, I know that my audience is about a third American and about a third Canadian, British, and Australian, and then a third something else. And so I'm speaking to the 2/3 now. What does it mean, Republican whip? So in the Senate, you have the majority leader and the minority leader, the majority leader and the minority leader. And below them, their number 2 is called the whip. I don't know why they call it the whip. This is the guy that whips their group into voting the right way. He's like the number 2. He's the guy that gets things organized. So John Thune is saying this, and John Thune is saying right now he has a job to do. Who knows what in the future may or may not be needed or necessary. He added, I wouldn't make any commitments about what he's going to move on the floor or not move on the floor in response to the demands that she's making. That's just smart politics, and I think Thune is right. Thune is running to become the next Senate GOP leader, so that whether they have a majority or a minority, when McConnell leaves, he would take his place. The next Senate GOP leader, and he may be tasked with the job of moving another emergency defense spending package in the next Congress. So this is a pretty big story, and again, it's not because I like covering Marjorie Taylor Greene. By the way, MUGA. It's not because I like covering her. It's just that she is just set against Ukraine in ways that it's almost hard to comprehend why, or just why she's so fervent about that. Okay, last story. This is huge. It's huge because we cross these red lines that Putin saber rattles about, and then nothing happens. And then we cross these red lines, and we saw, don't send these rockets, don't send these tanks, don't send these planes, don't send these whatever the thing is. So President Macron was talking about having potentially boots on the ground. Well, Lithuania has just moved to allow soldiers to be trained in Ukraine by Lithuanians who would be on the ground. Lithuania's Prime Minister, Ingrida Šimonytė, has stated that her country is prepared to send its soldiers to Ukraine on a training mission. That's big. That's a clear red line kind of violation of having NATO Western soldiers on the ground as far as Russia's concerned. And when they do it, Russia will do nothing. Šimonytė mentioned that she had received parliamentary approval from their parliament, it's called the Seimas, to send troops to Ukraine for training purposes, a proposal previously considered by her government. However, she said that Kyiv had not yet requested such assistance. But her rationale was really interesting, and I want to share that. She said, if we just thought about the Russian response, then we couldn't send anything. And that's right. She's got the right kind of concept here, and I applaud her for the way that she's thinking. Okay, last little bit I want to share. I thought this was a funny meme. This is Putin as a little kid. This is a nuclear weapon. And his teacher saying, Vladimir, this is the 9th week in a row that you've shown a nuclear weapon in class. It does seem to resonate, doesn't it? All right. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you for your patronage, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.